Hear me? Give me a one in the comments if you are able to hear me, making sure our mic is working. I got a whole new setup again. I keep changing things up. It's a lot of fun getting this thing ready for YouTube and getting some new fun content for you guys. But today we're talking about diabetes. Big surprise there, right? But no, seriously, we're talking about how to know where the problem areas are within our diabetes and how I have noticed that using a 3-step framework that I'm going to give to you guys today if you stick around towards the end. Now, again, I want to make sure that we are able to hear, so I'm going to go ahead and also pull up my own feed and make sure we've got audio, got visual, but use the comments real quick. Let me know if you can hear me, and then we'll hop into our topic for today. If you do not have water nearby, I highly suggest you grab some water because it's really good for you. We got somebody in the chat on YouTube. What's up, Smita? All right, so that means we're probably live. You can probably hear me. So as we're talking about how to identify these problem areas with diabetes, we want to look, okay, cool. We got, hi from Canada. Sweet. Feel free to use the chat. Tell me where you guys are from. Got Facebook, can hear me. Awesome. Looking at problem areas with our diabetes. Today, I'm going to be using some personal stories, but I want you to think of examples from your own life. And if you're not living with diabetes, but you know somebody who is, then you've probably seen some of these examples in real life as well. So just kind of think through those, think of some personal examples, and make it feel more real so you understand kind of what we're going through and how you can utilize that towards the end, right? So looking at my own life, I recognize that throughout my life with diabetes, there have been a lot of times where I found myself making a decision. Do I want to be adventurous or do I want to be safe? And I always thought this was this like either or kind of a decision that I had to make. Like I can have the giant bowl of pasta going out in an Italian restaurant, or I can keep my blood sugar safe. And I thought it had to be one or the other, right? And it's like it's such a bummer thinking that you have to choose between health and happiness, right? And not to say that pasta is the only way to be happy, but it's one. It's definitely one way to be happy. Here we go. Great comment in the chat. It says pizza or salad. Absolutely. That is a very common choice. In fact, I see a lot of people, and to be honest, myself in the past, looking at restaurant items, and you're like, this looks amazing, amazing, amazing. Ooh, I think I'll have the chicken salad. Thank you, waiter. And you're thinking inside, you're like, this is depressing, right? Like my friends and family have this, oh, there's a pizza. Oh, there's mac and cheese. Oh, there's a burrito and tacos or whatever else you're getting. And then we get this chicken salad, right? Or like the Mediterranean salad. Ooh, we got fancy. And it's kind of depressing when you think about it, right? And it's like, why did I make that decision? And I'll tell you guys, for years, I didn't recognize these as decisions that I was making. I thought it was the one choice I had available to me. I was like, all right, I just have to do the healthy choice, right? I have to eat the diabetic way. And it was so ingrained in me as something that I didn't have a choice in. So I just accepted it. And, realizing that so many of us have been suffering in different degrees, right? Of course, somebody who is going through multiple diagnoses and death in the family, they're going to look at suffering differently than somebody who's like, oh, I had to eat salad for dinner, right? Like, okay, we get that there's different degrees of suffering, but consistently removing that happiness from your life is still suffering, right? The absence of joy, of adventure, of spontaneity. So when we look at the food choices that we've had and thinking that we just don't have a choice, it leads into this compounding effect of a negative response in our life, that we don't get to enjoy these things to the fullest. And that is depressing, right? When you look at it over the course of our life, we're making these decisions day in and day out. Oh, I can't have that food. Oh, I can't go for that bike ride. Oh, I can't play with the grandkids or the kids, right? I can't travel. Oh, it's going to mess up my blood sugars, right? And we're restricting ourselves into this box. And it's like, how long can we keep this up, right? In fact, there was this time years ago where I was controlling my blood sugars. They were beautiful. I'll give you guys that. And, it was flat lines all day. Also, it's the one time that flatline is a good thing, right? Typically, you don't want to flatline. But I found myself under so great of control, but in so much misery, so much pain and frustration. I sat on the couch one day after I came home and just kind of stared at the wall. And I looked around. And I was like, I've created a prison for myself. And in that moment, I had said no to going out with some friends. They wanted to go out for burgers and fries. And I was like, ooh, burgers and fries. That sounds like a difficult meal to dose for. Nah, I'll just stay here and keep my blood sugars happy. Right. Has anybody else ever done that before? I don't know if I'm the only person that's ever skipped out on plans. And if so, then I guess I'll be alone in that. But I don't know if anybody else has ever said no to a family event or a friend's gathering or going out because you wanted to keep blood sugars happy, right? And we sacrificed for that. And over the course of years of missing out, I recognized these patterns, right? I observed them and I was like, I've been saying no to living my life because I want perfect blood sugars, because I don't want to unbalance the equation that's keeping my blood sugar stable, right? I don't want to introduce new variables like, oh, well, what if you go low? You just eat sugar, right? And it's like, well, yeah, you just eat sugar, but then you might go high and then you have to give extra insulin. But now there's insulin on board and that changes the whole game plan. Oh, but now the insulin on board is making me go low. And I just don't want to deal with that. It's exhausting, right? And in that thought process, it's like, well, it could be exhausting, but I'm also missing out on living my life. And what kind of quality of life is that? Where I have to say no to everything and stay in my safety box so that I don't piss off my blood sugars and I'm able to then continue living the same boring life that I was already living. Where's the fun in that? Right? And I had this thought that I realized I did not want to live my life that way. And it's not that I wanted to be reckless, because I've also done that. I have swung to both sides of the equation. One where I was reckless and I ignored my diabetes, and the other that I was just describing where I kept everything, and I mean everything, controlled, confined, restricted. And my blood sugars were beautiful, but my mental health, my quality of life was declining, right? So finding that balance of asking myself, well, is there a way for me to live my life? And if so, what does that look like? Right. So as we're looking at this, I want to give you guys kind of a framework that I've discovered as I was kind of doing some introspection the other day. And if you missed the podcast episode this week, that is part of the topic. I'm doing kind of a deeper dive here, but I highly recommend watching that episode if you haven't yet, because I talk about how I fell down some stairs and I landed on top of my insulin pump site and I bent the needle. Tell you what, I'll show you guys. Little warning, I'm about to show a needle on the camera. But this needle is supposed to be a 90-degree angle. Again, look away if you don't want to see a needle. It's not 90 degrees anymore because I fell downstairs on top of it. There you go. It's about 45 degrees instead of the 90 that it's supposed to be. So it was an interesting story. You should go watch that podcast episode on YouTube. But the idea behind that episode was asking ourselves if we recognize we might be pulling back, maybe restricting, right? If we're low carb, not because we hate carbs, but because we were scared to introduce carbs for our blood sugars, right? That's something you have to kind of start asking yourself of, if I didn't have, and this is the question I asked myself that day when I was sitting in the chair, if I didn't have diabetes, would this decision I made be different? Right? If I didn't have to worry about blood sugars, would I be going out with my friends right now? If I didn't have to worry about blood sugars, would I have taken that trip to Cancun? Right? Would I have altered my plans with family? Would I have had the dessert after eating pizza? Right? Like, if I didn't have diabetes, how would my decisions be different? Or would they be different? Is the first question. Would the decisions that I make be different? And I want you to ponder that for a second. Like, really just sit on that question, because so many of us, without even knowing it, are living that life. So many of us are making these subconscious decisions. Here we got plans, right? Family, friends, whoever. Hey, you want to go out to dinner? And usually it's unbeknownst to us. We grab our phone and we go, no, I'm going to stay here. What do? We checked our blood sugars and we're like, it's not worth the risk, right? Or maybe you're already out and you're looking at the menu and you're like, well, I'm here. I made it. I got outside of the house. I'm going to have a chicken salad. I'm going to have a plate of vegetables, right? I'm going to have just an appetizer. I don't need a big meal. I don't really eat that much. Meanwhile, our stomach is just gargling. Like I'm starving, right? I want all that food, but I just can't. I don't want to piss off the blood sugars. Anybody else feel like that? Of course. Yes. Okay. 100%. I see you guys in there. So with that, understanding that we may have made different decisions if we didn't have diabetes, now we get left with the ultimate question, which is how can I change those decisions? How can I strategize properly in order to live my life with more freedom, more flexibility? How can I identify these problem areas in my life that I can change productively? Right? How can I be somebody who goes after these things and creates the life that I want to live? That's the big question that we're after. So I've got a framework for you guys. And actually, before I jump into it, I see the comments are blowing up. I love it. So the comments, you've got yes all the time, but I would rather feel better than awful. Exactly. So many of us, right? We felt the high blood sugars, we felt the lows, and we're like, yeah, that sucked. I'd rather not deal with those blood sugars. So I'll just say no this one time, right? But so often, that is a slippery slope. You say no once, second time comes around, you're like, I mean, last time it just went smoother. It was just easier not to have this pizza, not to have the pasta, not to have my adventurous food enjoyment, right? I'll just go with the easier option this time. Now, where's the low carb menu? Do you have low carb tortillas, right? And we look at these different options as the healthier choice, but the reality is we're pulling back, we're restricting and confining ourselves to a life that is really just is pointing us back towards pitfalls. It's pointing us towards lower quality of life. It's pointing us towards being miserable long term, but not recognizing it because it's disguised as safety, as healthy. And so we get into it a decade later, 2 decades later. Some clients that I've taken on 50 years later. What? We can have carbs? I'm allowed to have more than 15 carbs in a meal? Yes. Yes, you are. But so many people aren't given the correct strategies to do so and experience stable blood sugars. See, the problem is oftentimes we have ventured out, right? Most of us are like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy tonight. I'm having the cake. And then the blood sugars go to 400. We go, that's why I don't do that, right? That's the example of why I'm not going to be adventurous next time. And that gets imprinted on our brains. And we think, why would I consider the risk? Why not just completely ignore it? Look elsewhere. I'm going to go eat the salad for dessert because I don't want to experience that again. That comment perfectly sums up the negative reinforcement that we see that one time we did decide to have carbs, right? So instead of focusing on the one time it went wrong, we need to retrain our brains to start looking for how can I do it right the next time. When you look for these new strategies, right? So I'm going to keep looking at these comments because I think we got some gold in here. Right, but I have found that many times from YouTube, or because I was too tired of trying to keep my blood sugars perfect. Yep, I believe I am the only person on Facebook. No, you're not. I see 6 people on at least with you right now, and got a couple on YouTube too. Everyone here, yep. I'm here. Yep, I see you guys. So looking at the frameworks, I want you to listen to this. I typed it out for you. So step 1, as we're looking at how to identify problem areas, first step is you have to identify it, right? I had to identify mine first. For years, I was like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm being healthy. I thought that was the right choice. I didn't even realize that I had a choice in the matter. So first step is to observe the problem areas. You're like, wait a second. Why did I say no to going out with my friends and family? I love my friends and family, right? I love going out to insert favorite restaurant. I don't know, Ruth's Chris, Olive Garden, McDonald's, I don't care. Whatever you like to eat, you're like, I love that food. Why did I say no? And I say it silly, like you're like, come on, you wouldn't know why you said no. No, the reality is a lot of us have these things baked into our subconscious. These are routines. These are habits. Our brain has made that decision so many times, we forgot that the choice exists, right? You wake up, I brush my teeth first thing in the morning. That's so ingrained in my head. I don't have an option, right? I wake up, I just do it. I'm like, I'm brushing my teeth. How did I get here, right? In my groggy haze, waking up first thing in the morning. It's just part of what I've built into my life. So the choices that we make consistently oftentimes because subconscious nature, and that can be dangerous if they're not the things that are serving us well. So the first step, observe, get curious, ask why. Why did I make that decision? Right? Why did I order the low carb option? Do I like low carb food? And you really have to get introspective with this and be honest with yourself. A lot of times, see, our brain does not like to admit that it was wrong or that it in any way could have made a wrong decision. So you're going to sit there and go, why did I order the low carb food? Well, I really like chicken. That's why I ordered it. That's right. It's because I like chicken. That's why I ordered the chicken salad. Well, why didn't you get the chicken parmesan with pasta on the side? Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't like pasta. Yes, you do. Yeah, I do. Why did I do it? Maybe I'm just not that hungry, right? And our brain will make excuses for us because it doesn't want to be wrong. You've probably experienced this without knowing it as well. The brain is silly. It does not want to be uncomfortable. The unfortunate part, though, is that growth is uncomfortable and oftentimes scary, right? So, looking at these decisions that we make, we're going to make decisions. You're going to get curious. You're going to try to observe it. And you're going to go, why did I say no to going on that bike ride or on that walk? You're like, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I had a long day. Oh, I already worked out today. Or is it because you saw your numbers and you're like, I have insulin on board. I don't know if this is worth wrecking my blood sugars for, right? Or, oh, I'm already at 80. I don't want to go low, so I'm not going to risk it. Or I don't even know what's going to happen if I go for a bike ride because it's been so long since I've enjoyed a bike ride that it's just this huge mystery. And that's scary, right? And we're not going to admit those things to ourselves right off the bats because our brains, remember, they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to admit defeat or any level of incompetence. So instead, we're going to make up these excuses. No, I was just tired. No, I've already worked out today. No, I don't like bike rides. And sometimes it requires someone else to call you out. My wife did this to me years ago. No, I don't really like going on bike rides. She's like, you love bike rides. What? And I kind of had caught her off guard, thankfully. And this was a few years ago. Yeah, it's relatively recent. And I was like, you're right. Like, I do like bike rides. And even I was kind of befuddled. I was like, I like bike rides. I said I don't like bike rides. I said no to the bike ride. I guess I'll go. Oh, and then as I committed to the bike ride, it hit me. I am worried about going low. And then I was like, oh, so I had said no because of blood sugars. And we circle back to that second question. You have to ask yourself, if I did not have diabetes, would this decision be different? That's how you're going to identify these problem areas in your life, as I did mine, when I was like, yeah, if I didn't have diabetes, I'd be going on a 3-hour bike ride right now, right? I love riding my bike, especially with my family. And they were doing a whole beach boardwalk bike ride for the sunset. And I had said no. And it was like, those are 3 of my favorite things: beach, family, bike rides. I love that. And I said no, right? But you got to be honest with yourself and give yourself grace. This is not to judge yourself or cast shame on yourself. It's to truly ask, if I didn't have diabetes, would my decision-making process have been different? Would I have decided something different than I did decide? And then comes the even more uncomfortable part. I got bad news for you guys. This is all uncomfortable. Any level of growth, self-improvement, learning new strategies for your diabetes, which is in fact step 3, is to find the strategies that will work, that will enable you to start saying yes to more things, right? I mean, give me a comment right now. Drop the word yes if you'd like to say yes to more things in life and not let diabetes hold you back. Whatever it is, I don't care what the topic is: food, activity, adventure, sleeping through the night. Give me a yes in the comments if you think you would like to have more out of life and not feel that second guess, second wonder of like, should I do this, or my blood sugar is going to get wrecked from participating in this, right? We got a yes. I love it. Let me pull back up my stream, see who we got. So we got yes from Dennis. Absolutely. Kim says Morgan. That's confusing. I got 2 names there. But we got people saying yes. I'm a yes too. And I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. For a long time, I was a yes who was saying yes, but doing no. In other words, I was like, yeah, I don't want to be held back by diabetes. Let's do it. And my friends were like, cool, let's go. And I was like, no, sorry, I can't go. And they're like, what the heck? Like, you just said you want to do it. And I'm like, tomorrow, I definitely want to do it tomorrow. That's going to be the game changer for me. Totally going to be ready tomorrow. But just today, things aren't lining up. The stars aren't, diabetes is being weird. I just don't know if it's worth it. And I would fall backwards again. See, it is so difficult for us to break through, right? But if you can make it past that first step, get uncomfortable, even if it's a baby step. See, for me, years ago, I got nervous because I had this really crazy experience overseas in Paris, France, where truthfully, I thought I was going to die. It was a low blood sugar, really scary experience. Coming back from that experience, I was kind of wrecked, like mentally speaking. Mental health was out the window. I was a nervous wreck when it came to my diabetes management. Did not want to ever see a low blood sugar again. Ran my blood sugars high for ages because I was like, I just don't want to even be close to a low blood sugar. So let's just avoid the whole situation, right? And it got to a point where I was saying no to everything. Anything that could possibly throw off my blood sugars. No chance. Not going to do it. Wasn't going to be fun. So I had to retrain myself on what was possible. And this is coming from someone who used to travel the world solo, who used to compete in collegiate sports, now is nervous to go for too long of a walk. Come on, right? Like, that's silly. No, the brain is a crazy powerful thing, and it was holding me back. And I had to break through. Now, in order to break through, that required me to be brave because I had these lies that my brain was telling me, like, you're going to die again, right? It's like, well, you can't die again. Come on. So I had to identify these things and observe and ask myself these questions. But the real action, the actionable item for you is the baby steps. So for me, I was like, I don't want to go for long walks. And it was like, well, why not just go for a short walk? And then remember, hey, it worked. He didn't die, right? Like, it didn't go horribly wrong. I'll do that again and start retraining yourself, building these things into habits and showing your own brain, like, hey, brain, did you see that? We just did that. It worked, right? And even if it didn't work, I know a lot of people are like, well, I want to eat pizza and it's not going to work, right? Even if it doesn't work. There's a wonderful phrase from a very famous movie that I forget the exact character's name, but the phrase is, but did you die? And it's like, that's such a fantastic question to ask ourselves. Like, our brain wants to say, what if it goes horribly wrong? And we have to remind our brain, but did I die? Come on, like, I've survived. I'm still here, right? And that was the mantra I had to kind of give myself, was like, come on, Matt, but did you die? Like, let's go. You can still do this. You're capable. And I had to retrain myself. So baby steps are a big part of that. I just kind of want to throw that in there extra, give you guys a little actionable item that I think can be helpful, is the baby steps and reminding yourself you can do a lot more than you think, right? We're capable of incredible things. And for me, it was also looking back at my previous version of myself before I had that scare over in Paris. I was like, yeah, I used to go run for hours through the middle of the forest. Like, I'd go to the mountains and I'd just go, no fear. And now fear's holding me back. So there's a lot of different components to this. And I recognize that largely because I've experienced it myself. But the 3-step framework that I want you guys to take away from today, how to identify these problem areas where diabetes might be holding you back, and how to get more freedom with your diabetes. Step number 1, you guys can write this down. Step 1, observe. You got to be aware of the thought patterns that are holding you back, right? So when you say no to things, when you take any action or make any decision, step 2 comes into play. If I didn't have diabetes, would this decision be different? And you just got to be honest with yourself. Be vulnerable, right? There's no reason to lie to yourself. But I can guarantee you, your brain is going to try to lie to you because it wants to protect itself. It wants to hold up its reputation of protecting you, right? Which is fine. That's the brain's job. Protect us, keep the body alive, keep us kicking, right? But when you're at a restaurant and you're like, why did I just order an appetizer? I'm starving. Oh, because I'm nervous, right? I don't have confidence in my insulin to carb ratio. Oh, I had a low earlier today. I don't want to worry about that. So I'm going to take the safety road. Oh, I'm currently high, right? I have a blood sugar of 200, 300 plus. I just don't want to deal with it. And we start to shrink and hold back on the fun. So asking yourself, if I didn't have diabetes, would this decision be different? So just think on that one. That's step two. And then step three, when you identify those problem areas, is to strategize, right? And understanding too that strategizing comes in a variety of different methods, frameworks, blueprints, right? The slowest way to do it, but if it's your only option, it's better than nothing, is to experiment and do it yourself, right? Especially if you don't have a fantastic medical team or a coach to guide you on this process. But if you know somebody who is able to give you guidance, or if you can find someone, either hire them or read their books or watch their videos, that's the next best thing. Go find someone who's done what you want to do, who's found freedom with diabetes and control, right? The balance of quality of life, happiness, but also health, controlled blood sugars. You want to find the balance. Find someone who's done that, consume all of their content. And if you need additional help, pay them to teach you the stuff, right? That's what I do. That's how I shortcut everything. I'll probably make this a podcast episode in the future, but for me, I decided today, and if you're following me on Instagram, you saw a story about this. I decided today that I wanted to pick up guitar again. And I was like, you know what? I haven't played in like 3+ years. The strings are literally like shredded, they're hanging on by a thread. And I have no idea what I'm doing. I have very little knowledge that I've maintained from my guitar playing years. So I went out, found the best guitarist that I could find, and I'm paying him to teach me one on one. Lots, a lot of money. Found the best person, but that's what I prefer. Instead of playing around with like, okay, what is this chord? What's this string? Forget that. I'm just going to the best guy to give me his individual attention. I want his eyes on my project. I'm gonna say, hey, just give me the shortcuts. Just teach me what to do, right? Because ultimately, if you want speed, you got to pay for it. And I recognize that. I'm cool with it because I would rather have the answers than waste my time. So that's your 3 steps. Observe. You got to just look around. Where am I holding back with my diabetes? 2 is you got to ask yourself that very vulnerable question. It can sting a little bit, right? If I didn't have diabetes, would this decision be different? Or would my decision making process be different? And then step 3, you have to strategize. Go ask the experts. And by the way, while I am not the answer to all of your questions, and I want to be completely clear about that, I do not know everything. I am really, really good at analyzing blood sugar trends and patterns and helping people to predict and stabilize their blood sugars with this formula that we've discovered. Now, yes, it's a formula. There's math involved. It's basic math, but like it's not a magic pill. So I want you to understand that before I get to this next piece, which is if you think that you're somebody who is willing to put the work in and wants the answers shortcutted for you, like, hey, we're set it up for you. Here's the answer. Do this and it's going to be fixed. Just let us know. Like that's what we're here for, right? I got a whole team of people. They're actually not allowed to sell you anything. So they just put your wallets away. I'd rather you just get value. I want to show you that there's a lot more potential with your diabetes than you probably are aware of. And there's a lot more freedom and flexibility out there for people like us. We don't have to restrict ourselves to living this boring, cardboard eating, monotonous, Groundhog Day kind of a lifestyle. It doesn't have to be like that anymore. There are new strategies out there that allow us to have stable blood sugars and a happy life. They can both happen at the same time. So if you're looking for that, and like I said, you're actually willing to like learn new strategies, implement them, then I want to help you if you're the kind of person that does take action. So what we can do, like I said, my team is available. I sometimes hop on these calls as well. You can comment the word coach and we'll reach out with more info, ask a couple questions, kind of see where you're at. Usually we'll link you up with the training free. Like this is just kind of what we do. And then beyond that, if you're like, I want more help, I want more guidance, we can talk about that. There's actually a wait list right now. So again, my team is not allowed to sell you anything because there's just no spots available currently. We've been waitlisted for a couple months, but we can at the very least get you started with some next steps, point you in the right direction towards trainings that would be beneficial for you. And they'll ask you some questions, or maybe I'll ask you some questions as well to see which of the trainings that we have would be a good fit for you personally, because everyone's a little different, right? Different struggles, different goals. So if that's you, you want some more info on how we can help you out, just drop the word coach in the comments, and either myself or one of our team members will reach out to you and get you more info on that. So repeat, observe, ask yourself that vulnerable question. If I didn't have diabetes, would my decision-making process be different? And then 3, if you recognize it should be different, you want more out of life, you got to strategize, right? You got to start finding how you can have those different pieces of your life, right? So the 2 questions you ask is, would my decision-making process be different? And then how can I have the pizza? How can I run a triathlon? How can I travel the world? How can I play with my kids without worrying, or my grandkids without worrying about a low? Go for a bike ride, go for a hike, right? How can I do that? You need the right strategies. Takes time, but you know where to ask. All right, you got access to us. So I hope this one was helpful for you guys. This is something that I've noticed over the last decade plus of living with diabetes. There's these different patterns in my own thought process, and I don't want you to fall into the same traps that I did, because it took me years to crawl out of those and create new strategies and find the answers. I want you to experience a better life than I did. So that's the big goal behind today's training. I hope this one was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments as well. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you guys in the next week. Training at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. There you go. Forget the time zones. 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Every single Thursday, I'm going live with you guys. And appreciate you guys. So have a good one. And as always, keep up the fight.